everybody has some wine with them, which is good. So again, happy Thursday afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the country. And really, really means a lot to me that you guys are joining again. This has obviously been a strange year, stranger by the moment as it seems out here in the Napa Valley. But it's truly moments like these that we get the chance to get together, whether it's through the way of a glass of wine, whether it's through a way of some great photography and great friendships. So without further ado, let me, actually I gotta take a sip first. Take a moment to tell you a little bit about who we have with us this afternoon. So I thought about, okay, I mean, I know a number of great photographers around the country, but I said, you know, this is about Napa. I want to keep it focused to friends that are photographers here in the Valley. And also, I also wanted to invite friends that have touched me in some way or another, whether by way of wine, whether by way of photography. And so each of these three gentlemen joining this afternoon has a sort of a fun correlation in sort of my life, or at least the path that I've been on. So first I want to introduce, I'll keep admitting people here. First I want to introduce Jeff Hansen. Jeff is a friend of mine that I actually met through Instagram. He's got, and we'll share all the handles, their Instagram pages later. It's also in the emails that we've sent out as well. But Jeff's a guy I met on Instagram, an incredible photographer, and I started following him, Napa Valley Images, and just a really, really amazing, just gentleman who's been really helpful in my own interest in the hobby and passion of photography. And I would message him and say, hey, Jeff, you know, what settings did you use on this picture? How did you take that picture? This, that, and the other thing. And it turned into a fun little relationship that he's become a good friend. He's been up to the winery a number of times. It's not uncommon for he and I to message each other at late hours of the night when we've been out shooting stars at different areas of the Napa Valley together, and share those midnight edits with each other and say, hey, look what I got. Hey, look what I got. Jeff, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to go through introductions real quick, and then I'll come back through and let each of you step in as well. The next guy I have on here, Jimmy Hayes. Jimmy Hayes, it's funny, I'd like to say that Jimmy is maybe I'm following Jimmy's path at some point. So Jimmy and I both have sort of an initial background in the Napa Valley with the Thomas Keller Restaurant Group. Jimmy was, correct me if I'm wrong, you were the wine director and sommelier at Per Se. From there into the world of wine with the Araujo family, and then into Mayacamas Winery, and now a very successful, incredible photographer. And as I just learned getting on this, if you notice in the back of Jimmy's screen there, you see a little neon pickle. He and his son, little Jimmy, are very successful pickle entrepreneurs. So we'll let Jimmy talk about the pickle business there as well. A little side.
Really an empire.
An empire.
Yeah, pretty much.
You got to start somewhere.
Little Jimmy's 10, just for the record.
See, you got to start. I mean, forget entrepreneurs start at an early age. It's great. And then I have Matt Morris, a good friend of mine who actually, I met Matt a number of years ago through a mutual friend. I know Matt was taking some incredible photographs for a number of other wineries. Matt and I first connected for the purpose of photography needs for the winery he's taken. So if you go to either the Correlation Wine Company website or our estate brand Vineyard 7 and 8's website, all those pictures are Matt. Matt he's a very incredible photographer, but he's also an incredible cinematographer. And I'll let him tell you some of the stories and sort of some of the things that he's done. But there was a really cool, I pulled some stuff off the website here, Matt, but this one was really cool. So in 2008, he produced and directed Pickin' and Trimmin', an Emmy-nominated documentary short that was an official selection over 24 international film festivals, including the Claremont, Ferrand, and Aspen Short Fest. That's awesome. So, I mean, that's just one of a number of films and documentaries that he's done, and Matt photographs for a number of incredible wineries here in the Napa Valley. Until I realized that it was going to be much better for me to learn how to do photography myself than to keep hiring all these guys to take pictures for my social media needs. So, but again, thank you guys all for joining me this afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. I hope you guys enjoy for what should be a fun afternoon talking about the correlations of wine and photography, and how they are really truly connected as an art. So without further ado, why don't we circle back? We'll go in order as we were. Why don't we circle back to Jeff? Jeff, I'd love, and for each of you guys, I'd love each of you guys to sort of talk about, how and why you came to the Napa Valley. Tell us what, is so inspiring, and what makes photography or cinematography or film photography so passionate for you. And maybe while you guys are doing that, I'll also take the opportunity to throw onto the screen pictures that you guys sent me, and I'll let you tell me to move a little bit slower, a little bit faster. But I know you guys shared some really, really cool pictures that I can't wait to share with everybody else. So without further ado, Jeff Hansen.
Thanks, Wes. We came to Napa about 5 years ago. After I retired, we were in Redding, which is, as you know, up north. I had a law practice in Redding for a number of years. I worked as a judge in Redding for a number of years. And after we retired, my wife and I were looking to find a better climate. Redding is not the most hospitable place in the world, especially in the summer. And we have kids in San Francisco and Vacaville, so Napa was a pretty easy choice for us. We've been visiting here off and on over the years, and we just moved to Napa. When we got to town, we had no idea where we were going to live. We were in our motorhome with our dog. We'd sold our house, and we just went about finding a place to live and getting integrated into the community. I'd always been interested in photography. I'd done a little bit in college. I'd shot a couple of weddings for friends, but I didn't really have a lot of time to pursue it when I was practicing. And we hadn't been in Napa that long, and I realized it was just an incredibly target-rich environment. I had a decent camera, so I started taking photographs, and I got them on Instagram and a couple of other places. A friend of mine who is a winery manager in the valley became aware of them. At the time, we weren't friends, but we since have become. He asked if I'd be interested in showing my photos at their winery during Arts in April, which is an annual arts event in the valley. And I was pretty excited about that, so I said sure, and we did that, and it was a lot of fun. And to make a long story short, the next thing I did was join a gallery in downtown Napa. I've since become a member of the board of directors of the Arts Council. I can't even see my law career looking over my shoulder. It's so far gone, which, could be a good thing. In any event, since that initial partnership with this one winery, I've done work with a number of others, primarily landscape type of work that they're showing. I've done a couple of jobs for a balloon company, which was pretty exciting to get to fly in a balloon and take photos. And for me, it's sort of a second career that I can afford to take as slowly and casually as I like. Unlike the other two gentlemen here, who are true professionals, I'm kind of an accidental professional, but I'm having a lot of fun with my cameras, and I've met an awful lot of neat people like Wes, and I can speak to the individual photos as we go through them, or I'm happy to answer any questions.
Absolutely. So I just now threw the first of the pictures up. Does everyone, you guys see that? So I think it's a perfect segue. If Jeff, you said you're an accidental professional. I think that this photo here says the contrary. This is a spectacular picture. So I'll let you take it from here and guide us through these pictures.
Okay. This one was taken in the Carneros region off of Old Sonoma Road. And I often will find myself out looking for weather. These days, it's all gray right here, but oftentimes in the morning or in the evening, I'll go out if there's some clouds in the air and just trying to find some pretty light. It's not that hard to find a good foreground or a nice subject for a photo in Napa Valley. This particular afternoon, I just stumbled upon this end of the day sunshine that was breaking through as a storm was breaking up, and it just threw some beautiful light on this dormant vineyard. And I was lucky enough to capture this image.
Let's go to this one. Look at that magical sunset.
This is the first of 3 images that I put together. They're all taken within 50 feet of one another, but not during the same year. This is a spot in Oakville where I'm sure the other guys know it well. You can see all the way down the valley with Mount St. Helens in the background, or St. Helena, I should say. And for about a week every year, this beautiful lavender blooms. And if you're lucky enough to be there when there's lavender and when there's a sunset, you can get some pretty nice photos. And for some reason, I'm drawn back to spots like this. This is probably 20 feet from the last image we saw. There was a stormy sky that day. It was kind of late. Some sun broke through the clouds. You can see the illumination coming in from the left. And the one we're going to next, that was the first one I took in that particular neck of the woods. In the gallery, that has been my absolutely most successful photograph ever. I probably sold 2 or 3 dozen of them, the largest 4 feet by 6 feet. This particular image was focus stacked. That is, you take photographs focused at different points throughout the scene, combine them in Photoshop, and you have a very good depth of field if that all works out. So this is one of my very favorite images, and one of the first ones I took in that part of the valley. Everything just kind of came together.
Look at this one. Wow.
This was last New Year's Eve. We don't do much on New Year's Eve. So I just grabbed my camera. It looked like there might be a decent sunset, and over on the Silverado Trail, I stayed until the bitter end, and it paid off. There was just an incredible array of colors that night, and those colors, I think I might have changed the color temperature to the warm side a bit, but those colors by and large are what I saw that night. It was a pretty incredible end of the sunset.
I think this next one I'm about to show is one of my pictures that caught my eye early on when I connected with Jeff. Look at this.
This was a fun image. That's I think a 1931 or 33 Mack truck that is in an advanced state of deterioration at this point. It's owned by a gentleman in the Rutherford area that has acres of old used equipment. He used to be in the mining business, and a lot of his old equipment is right there on the property. And he had put this particular vehicle out near the front of the property. And the first time I saw it, it looked to me like it might be in a good spot to try and catch the truck and the Milky Way in the same photograph. So I went out one evening I took a friend of mine, Chris Morazzoli, another Napa Valley grape grower, and he did the lighting for me. We light painted the truck. We put a light inside it, and then we shot some frames of that. We shot frames for the Milky Way itself. Then the two photos were combined in Photoshop, simply because the range of light was too much, at least for me, to catch in one frame. Anyway, that truck still sits there, and I've seen other folks take images of it. I haven't seen any others taken at night. If you like to shoot at night, it's a pretty cool opportunity.
Look at that.
This is one of the better sunsets or sunrises I found in the last few years. And this particular morning, it had been foggy, low valley fog with a set of high clouds, and that fog tends to hang around the Napa River. So I had a spot picked out if these conditions ever look like they might come together for me. And this morning I ran out and was just greeted with this incredibly beautiful golden sunrise coming through the fog. And I really like the way the fog just kind of masks some of the trees at the end of the vineyard and provides a transition between the foreground and the sky. I was really happy with the way this one turned out. It's also been a successful image for me in the gallery.
Wow. Look at that reflection off the pond there. That's spectacular.
This is a pond over in the Carneros area, a farm pond that I'm sure the other guys know where it is. It's nothing unknown to photographers in the area. The only catch is you've got to get there when there are clouds and it's sunset and there is no wind at all, because if there's any wind, it's going to disturb the surface of the pond and you're not going to get a reflection. I think probably it took me 7 or 8 tries to get this photograph. I've since been able to get a couple of others with entirely different light, entirely different clouds, but for the trees, you wouldn't know it was the same place. But that pond is somewhat sheltered by a berm, and as long as there's very little wind, it's a great place to catch a nice reflection.
That's awesome. And then this last one here is this one. You got to tell us about this one. That's pretty neat.
Okay, the taco truck. When we first moved to Napa, we lived in an apartment on the corner of near Trancas and Old Soskel. And this taco truck would come out on Tuesday or Wednesday and then be there every night, kind of out in front of where we lived for the rest of the week. And one evening, we took our dog for a walk and we walked by this taco truck, and Kathy looked at me and said, "Go get your camera." So I did, and I came back. She took the pup in the apartment, and I found a vantage point about, I don't know, 50 feet away from the taco truck, and waited for a small group of unidentifiable people to show up, and snapped off 2 or 3 photos. And this is the one that I was happiest with. The truck the lights in the truck just kind of glow. It's a neat image. And that fall, I thought, well, what the heck? Maybe I'll enter this in the fair and see if it does anything. And I have a blue ribbon to prove they liked it. Again, that's been a real successful image for me in our gallery. I just love it. I'm sure there are other people who can critique it better than I, but I like the colors. I like the truck. He's since ruined the lines of the truck. He built a rack on the front to hold his generator. So it's not nearly as tidy looking in the front, which, I'm happy I got this photo when I did.
Oh, that is, it's making me hungry. I need some tacos now with my wife.
And their El Pastor tacos are really, really good.
Jeff, thank you. That was awesome. Really, really question, Emmett McLean, friend of ours in Alabama, asked, "What kind of camera do you use?" And maybe we could all, I'm sure when we're all each chatting, we could each chat about what is sort of our favorite camera that we use.
Okay, so about half the, probably 2/3 of the photos you saw were taken with a Nikon D810. I've since moved on to a D850. I also, I know at least one of them was shot with the D500. I also use a Z6. I don't think any of the photos in tonight's group were shot with a Z6, but I have an array of lenses. My favorite lens is a Zeiss Milvus 25 millimeter, which gives a new name to the word sharp. It's a fantastic lens, and that's the one I use most often for landscape.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate you sharing those awesome images, and again, for being with us this afternoon, and for being an awesome tutor for me. Jimmy, my friend,
Hey,
welcome.
Wes.
Thank you for joining. Tell us what, other than Thomas Keller, what brought you to the Napa Valley, and what got you from food to wine to photography? As I said in the beginning, I like this path.
It's a fun life. Yeah, I'd recommend it to pretty much anyone. There was nothing else when I came out here. It was just Thomas. You know that, working for his company. That's an all encompassing lifestyle. So we got moved out here with the company from New York City to be. I got a director's level job overseeing wine for the group, and it was a great way to move the family west. And it was just me and my wife at that point. And gosh, I guess that was probably 2008. We've been here for about 12 years, and it was great. And I worked for Thomas, and everything was hunky dory. And then we went and had a kid, and that definitely changed the dynamic in our house in a way that made it very that I needed to be very grateful that my wife had been such a supportive restaurant industry spouse for so many years, and I needed to get a real job and get home to have holidays and see our kid grow up. So I left Thomas and went and started working on the vineyard side of things in some marketing at first, and then operations later on. Like you said, first for the Araujo family at Araujo Estate Wines, and then at Mayacamas Vineyards up on Veeder. The photography thing is kind of an interesting story for me. I explained it to somebody the other day. I was kind of a hobbyist, and it became a career for me, really at the request of somebody else. I was just having fun taking pictures and sort of discovering, a medium that was great way for me to express my side, which I've always had. I just never really figured out how to put it out in the world. And so it was really a situation where a good friend of mine who is a designer who I'd worked with on some other projects when I was in the wine business, he was working on a design project for a vineyard, and they needed a certain kind of photography, and he sort of asked me, he said, "Hey, would you ever consider doing this project with me sort of as a professional?" And I was like, "That sounds amazing. Let's talk about it." And like, what do I charge? What do I do? I didn't know anything. And but long story short, it worked out, and I take a particular kind of a picture, I guess you could say. They're very minimal, they're very sparse, they're kind of austere, and that aesthetic was exactly what he needed. So it was a really great fit, and that kind of one project really kicked everything off for me. And it's been 6 or 7 years now of either time or full time just doing this.
Well,
so
this picture is sort of apropos for this time of year.
Yeah, tis the season. For me, in a nutshell, I take very different pictures than Jeff and very different pictures than Matt, and I think it's awesome to have all three West too, and all these four different. And for me, it's a very kind of architectural process. Framing is very important to me. Lines and shapes and negative space really are just kind of a common theme through all the different pictures I take. And professionally, really what I photograph more than anything is wine, because I have sort of come to photography through wine. So really most of what I do is kind of sort of a modern artistic kind of documentary work for the commercial clients that I have. So I sort of embed with a winery for a year, 2 years, 6 months, 3 years, whatever it is, and just kind of capture what's happening as it happens. And that's, in a process like wine, there's so many beautiful things to see. Harvest is an incredible time. Winemaking has so many beautiful shapes and textures and colors, and then all year long you've got beautiful vineyard sites like the ones Jeff is taking pictures of, and they're just magical places. They're beautiful places, and they look different every single day of the year. So whether it's winter and everything is very sparse, or and the vines are dormant, or if it's fall and the leaves are senescing and the colors are changing, there's just always something to see out there. So for wineries that are really interested in having a kind of documented record of what happens, it's a really nice marriage for me, for my photography. So
That's for sure.
I never set anything up unless I'm doing like some kind of a rare sort of product shot. Really everything I do is just captured. It's not made. So there are no lights, there's no staging, there's just the hopefully beautiful natural light and what sometimes can be a pretty good eye for finding an interesting way to show something that people in our industry see quite a bit. So that's the nutshell. I don't process very much in terms of production. I tend to try and get as close as I can in the camera, but this picture is a great example of sometimes when I do, if I am manipulating photographs for aesthetic reasons, typically what I do is, instead of adding information in, whether it's adding color or adding detail, I tend to strip it away. This is a situation where I'm standing, it's a night harvest, obviously. There's one light on. There's literally only one guy that's in the frame. Everything else is pitch black. And for me, it's just about wanting to, in images like this, really direct attention to the specific subject of the picture. Is this vineyard beautiful? Totally. Is it like an amazing mountaintop? Yeah, but that's not important in this picture. For me, this is just a picture of this person in this very, very big space doing something really, really special just all by himself. So this is a pretty typical image for me. I always strive to get these kinds of big, negative, space-driven scenes.
This next one I think probably goes well with that one.
Yeah. So you kind of hit a couple of the harvest photos in a row there, and it's, for I'm sure Matt would agree with this, it's just one of the most exciting times to take pictures, because you have this incredible group of people that work in an environment that is just full of things to see and hear and touch. And they work at lightning speed, and it's pitch black, and sometimes all the light there is just somebody's headlamp. And it's a real amazing challenge as a photographer to try and harness these tiny little bits of light with a camera that's really not designed very well to take these kinds of pictures. So it's my favorite thing to photograph, and it's also my least favorite because it is really quite difficult. I was up very late last night out in Sonoma, or not last night, the night before last, out in Sonoma, taking pictures as the sun was coming up, and I was just thinking to myself, wow, it's so amazing when the pick lasts long enough that you get to transition from the pitch black into a time. It's just little bits of light that come from a rising sun that lets you, it makes it look like you've been there for 2 days, but also makes it slightly easier to take really great pictures. So that picture right there, the first one was landscape was up at Della Valley Vineyards up on the bench in Oakville, and the one you just had there was Tokelon Vineyard, right down in Oakville. And then this guy, you know, this for me, this is another pretty classic, I guess, thing I strive for in pictures. You've got a big line, you've got a lot of negative space, and you've got a subject that is, you know, this isn't a technically perfect photograph. The subject's eyes are out of focus. The grapes are sharp and in focus on my screen, but that's not the subject of the picture. And to me, this just invites so much, you know, thought about, you know, his name's Armando, and he's Matt, you know Armando, I bet, Armando Jr. And he, you know, what's he thinking about right there? Super focused. He's totally in the moment, but you just kind of don't know when you see a picture like that. And the longer that I've been doing this and the more pictures I've been taking, I used to really strive for those perfect, super sharp, everything is exactly as it should be moments. And now, frankly, all I really get super excited about are moments like this where, you know, you see the kind of messiness of movement and you see kind of the chaos of the sort of imperfections in the photograph taking over, but they make you feel like you're standing right there, and that to me is really exciting. That's up on a winery called Cornell Vineyards up on the Sonoma side of Spring Mountain.
That's about half a mile from me right now.
Oh yeah, you know the wild landscapes up there pretty well.
Yes.
This is at a winery called Brand on Pritchard Hill, and you know this is not what I went into to take pictures of. Actually, there was the owners were there, and they were getting ready to have a tasting, and I was going to kind of capture some of the moments from that. But this is the assistant winemaker just kind of himself getting ready for the big tasting with the owners, and to me that's the moment that says the most. You know, I love to use shadow. I love to, again, I probably, for processing this image, I'd probably punch the shadows a little bit just to make him a little bit more mysterious and have more of the photograph be about the wine in the glass, the color that's on the glass, and just the act of smelling, not necessarily taking a picture of him. I keep pictures really pretty anonymous, if at all possible.
Cool. That's a really cool shot.
Yeah, geometry is important to me aesthetically, and vineyards are like about the greatest thing you can ever take pictures of if you want to capture lines, things like that. This is the Vine Hill Ranch in Oakville, really amazing vineyard, and you know, you just get these incredible shapes from vineyards, and you get sure beautiful colors and beautiful textures and all those things too. But for me, the things that I like are the lines and the shapes. So this is a very flat part of the vineyard that goes into a much steeper hillside area that had just been replanted. I think a few months before, and this was actually a kind of a crop in, and typically I don't crop much of anything at all. I try to frame in camera, but this one I found and this is an old image. I think this is 5 or 6 years old, but just to get the sense of having it be almost flat by cropping into this one, and really directing the point of the vines that is in focus to the part of the photograph I like the focus to be in this particular case. It really created this beautiful illusion of two-dimensionality that this is. I mean, I love pictures. If I can go out and capture something like this, I get super excited. And then, you know, and then as like the last picture for me is art, and if I have clients commercially that get excited about artistic photographs like that, then I'm super excited as well. there is also a documentary aspect to photography for any industry, and this is just a great example of being out in the vineyard with the guys. This is a kind of like a just early spring kind of leafing day that's happening, and leafing and suckering and those kinds of things, and you capture the light just right on a kind of slight. This looks like a slightly overcast day, which I always prefer, and just snap away and get the guys and girls doing what they do best. And there's always some great images. And again, kind of obscure, not necessarily intentionally trying to frame his face out during the photography process, but when I go through my pictures and make my selects, I almost always settle on the one for clients. They tend to like photographs that are a little bit, again, more anonymous sometimes. Making wine takes, there's all kinds of different things that happen when you make wines. So in the last photograph, you've got a guy out in the field who's doing handwork in the vineyard, and then here you've got an owner and a winemaker that are blending up the final blend for this is at Dalla Valle, so that's Naoko Dalla Valle and Andy Erickson, who's the winemaker there. And the fact that in the same project you can include photographs that are of guys working out in the field and owners blending wine together, to me that is really exciting. The amount of latitude that there is across the process, the different kinds of people that are involved, all doing it together.
Here's another awesome art one.
Yeah. That was at a winery in Coombsville called Covert, and that is just absolutely sunrise, just getting down and finding the right shapes and clicking it, being very happy with the result.
I pulled one more off your website that resonated with me, of course, because of harvest time, and again, I think this might fall into the art realm. The depth of field on this one is really, really cool, and sort of goes another black and white. But so I'm sorry it's not small because it's not the full size image, but it is. I really liked this shot. This was super cool.
Yeah, thanks. And with depth of field, I'm almost always. I'm not a technically super proficient photographer. I don't, I wouldn't know how to focus stack an image if if you asked me how to do it. And so Jeff, you're the man for being able to kind of thing. But I set my camera. I always shoot prime lenses. I always shoot at pretty wide open apertures. This is probably somewhere like 2.8 or 2.5. That's typically where I am. And I love blur in the foreground. I love all kinds of negative space, and just again, because for me that just directs your attention to the place it needs to.
Well, bravo! Those are awesome, Jimmy. Thank you. Tony Albright said, Jimmy, thank you for the talk through and staying through for the night to the morning. Definitely something magical happens when you can experience that transition and connect it to the environment. So, and of course, connect it through photography as well.
Yeah.
I hope you guys are having as much fun as I am. I'm sitting back here. I'm learning about. This is fun. Mr. Morris.
Yes, sir.
Morris, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you.
How's the rosé treating you?
Oh, it's good. Got a 2016 Correlation Rosé. Super tasty. Acid's still there. Nice and refreshing.
Nobody said rosé can't age.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell us about your journey. You've got, obviously in photography, but also from cinematography as well.
Yeah, so film is what brought me here, basically. I got interested in filmmaking from a pretty young age, and in college I got interested in wine. So I used to read about Napa wines, drink Napa wines, and I had become friends with Herb and Jennifer Lamb over here on Howell Mountain. And in 2010 I think I came out for the first time, either 2009 or 2010. I used to do the sound mixing on the short docks over at Skywalker Sound in Marin. And I was here working on a film, Staying with Herb and Jennifer, in 2010, when it happened to coincide with harvest. And so Jennifer knocks on my door at 6 a.m. and is like, come on, come out, like pick fruit, sort, do the thing. And so I went out and did it. I had my camera on me, took some photos, took some video just for fun, and just fell in love with the process. You know, it's like the stuff that you get to do, the sights, the smells of it, you know, like that like blueberry Danish in the air that happens for 2 months here. And so I came back the next year and just kind of fell in love with the area. And so decided to move here instead of LA and I thought I was just going to do videos for wineries, and met some guys who, you know, when I moved, it was kind of a last minute decision. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I looked up all of, you know, the kind of best wineries at the time to see who had good websites. And the best was Arajo. And so I got in touch with Alex Chrisman and Byron Hoffman, who did that website. And so Realm was the first client that I had, you know, just doing video, and then they were going to hire a photographer. And I said, well, I could do both. You know, I'll use the same camera. And they said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I could switch back and forth and figure it out. And then up until that point, you know, photography was a hobby. And just like Jimmy, I had someone ask me to do just photos for a website. And I said, sure. And I liked the fact that I could work at the level that I wanted to and was in more control. It's really hard, you know, Napa is not LA. It's hard to get good equipment and crew and talent for great videos out here. But with photography, it's just you and your equipment in a vineyard. And so I kind of fell in love with that and kind of made a conscious choice to do a little more photography than video.
Let's jump in here. This first, oops, did I have it right? Do I have it up there?
Yeah, so all these are all from my website, a couple of years old, and are usually, these are kind of when I was getting a hang of things and playing. That's
these
a
are West
Vine.
today.
Yeah. That's an old vine over at Gurgich. It's the second oldest Cabernet vines in Napa. I've always loved old vines. And so I took out I had this idea just that I wanted to shoot a vine the way that you would shoot a portrait of a person. And so it's a hand-painted linen backdrop from this woman, Sarah Oliphant in New York, does all the backdrops for Annie Leibovitz. And I had her make me a backdrop for a documentary that I was working on, and had the idea to take that out into the vineyard with a light and basically shoot a portrait of the vine, removing its context, which was fun. And, you know, that's something Brett Lopez over at Scarecrow had done something similar.
Sure.
But yeah, so much of the process is just playing around, having ideas, and then running out and trying them out.
I don't know where this next one is from.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I was going to say to the question about, you know, what cameras do people use? I don't think camera is that important. I mean, if you get pretty much any full frame camera made in the last 3 to 5 years, you're good. And everything else is just about light and subject, you know, being in the right place at the right time, and hopefully having some good light. And so this is a circumstance where bottling is usually not the sexiest thing in the world. And so you go around looking for what might be an opportunity. And so that little window of light was essentially the opportunity, and you just wait until a bottle faces you.
Yeah, 'cause they're not always
Or in
facing
that case, yeah, I was probably spinning them, you know, and then running over to that spot for it to line up. But yeah, that's Sam Kaplan. That's just another case of, like, you know, like Jimmy said, there's in winemaking, there's a lot of fun symmetry and lines, and so you just let that do the work, and then, you know, Sam's a handsome guy. He makes it easy.
I love this next one.
Oh yeah, so that was the first year that I started making wine with Benoit Touquet. We started making Charbonneau together, and it's a super dark grape in color, and so that was the assistant winemaker at the time, Greg. That was his harvest hands, which are kind of a signature for pretty much anyone from August to Thanksgiving.
Oh, we got a little side plug in there. This Charbonneau that Matt discusses, talks about, for all of those that you're looking for a wine to make you go, wow, mattmorriswines.com. He makes a few different Charbonneaus from some of the most iconic Charbonneau vineyards in the Napa Valley. And hopefully Matt's he's getting used to me emailing him every once in a while, like, don't judge, but I'm out of wine and I need some more, because I mean, as a vintner, these are the kind of calls you want to get. So, but
Right.
I tell you, it is a spectacular wine. Definitely worth searching out. This was a really cool shot.
Yeah, I tend to I kind of like development. There's something that's always a little Mad Max about it, especially, you know, like I remember there was one photo I took up at Upper Range when they were developing it, where it looks like you're just on Mars. There's no context for anything. It's just orange soil, these massive machines, and the sky, and that's it. And then, you know, if it's late summer, that soil basically just becomes moon dust because there's no water on it. So I like those rare occurrences, which, you know, like this image is really nothing to directly tie it to wine, but always just kind of a fun part of the process to see.
Look at this one. That's pretty dramatic.
So that's one of David Aber's vineyards, and that's like I said, it's light, you know, like being in the right place at the right time.
So right before the call, Matt also texted me some pictures, and I'll let you talk the film photography. So I think these next few are of film photography versus digital photography, correct, Matt?
Yeah, so that's that one is a Polaroid that's taken. Actually, my kitchen table is where I have all of my cameras pretty much at all times. So that was taken on this. It's a Polaroid land camera from the 1970s. They only made 2 models that were fully manual. And so what I like about this is that there are no electronics in it at all. It is a fully manual and chemical process. And basically we'll pull out a little almost 4x5 image. And so when I started the Charbonneau project, I kept thinking about what I could do that would be insane to do for a client. And that was basically to only shoot film. You know, with these black and white images, Fuji discontinued that film maybe 4 years ago. And so it lines the back of my refrigerator. I don't know, you know, how many I have left at this point. But I did one of Realm's labels for the on that camera, and all of our Charbonnas from ShyPoke have rotating images from Polaroids. And then the next image, the Toffanelli every year, what I do is I figured out very quickly that the first vintage in 2014, when we started making the wine, I basically tried to shoot the way that I would for a client while working harvest, and realized very quickly that's kind of impossible. You either have to be fully focused on the photography or fully focused on organizing and participating in a harvest. And so around then, a friend of mine, a cinematographer, Eric Steelberg, introduced me to this camera, which is a Contax T3. This is kind of the last of the luxury compact cameras of the mid 90s. And it's got a fixed 35 millimeter lens, super sharp. And it will fit in your pants pocket, no problem. And it's fully automatic. And so I realized very quickly, this was the only way that I could do both. I could put this in my pocket, I could pull it out, snap a photo real quick, put it back in my pocket, pick grapes, sort, whatever I need to do. And so for our labels for Toffanelli, what we do is we print contact sheets, which is basically how photographers used to look at their photos and then decide which ones to make selections and prints out of. And so the label for the Toffanelli every year is a contact sheet of a roll of film shot the morning that we harvested the grapes that are in that particular bottle.
That's cool.
I tend to like just things that are analog, and things that have kind of texture and feel to them. What I also like about the camera is that if you pull out, a big camera with a big lens, people tend to alter their behavior a little bit, or maybe they'll get a little uncomfortable, or it takes a while for them to let their guard down. And with this, what's so great is it looks like a disposable camera, from the 90s. And so people are super comfortable. It's very quiet. And so I like that. I feel like you can get more kind of authentic moments, private moments with people with that particular camera. In general, I'm not kind of focused on specific cameras doing anything important, but this one in particular, I do think it affects the type of photographs that you get. Yeah, that next one, Events, that's one from that camera as well.
So cool. Oh, there we go.
Plus, it's just nice, it's like Christmas morning when, and this is another that was taken in, I think, 2016. When you get the images back, because you're shooting film, you don't really know what you have or don't. And this has a very odd shutter where it's hard to tell. It makes a little bit of noise like leading up to the photo and after. So it's hard to really pinpoint like where the photo was taken. And so it's only, a week later when you get your film back, do you see what you actually got.
This next picture is pretty obviously apropos with this year, but what a spectacular capture. I mean, this I think actually resonates so much with the community and the resilience that no matter what, the show goes on. And, vintners, the first responders, there's the photographers, it's this fighting attitude of, you know what, we've got a job to do. We're passionate about our craft, and we realize that there's a lot of things going on around us, but it's time to get to work and do what we can do. But
I think I took 4 photos during the fires in 17. I mean, that was a thing that I remember people asking, are you going out and taking photos? And it was just too immediate and kind of emotionally overwhelming. And there were too many people who needed help doing more important things. So I just didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't take photos. I was going into San Francisco and buying masks and giving masks to people. And doing all that. And then towards the end, when they sent in the air support, I was driving up 29 and I saw the helicopters. This is kind of behind Mondavi at Tokelon, going and dipping down to refill. And so I just turned my truck in the vineyard and I'm going around and I turn the corner and they're picking grapes. Insane. Like, as these helicopters are going up and down, and I pull my camera up, and then that guy right behind the tractor sees me and throws me some thumbs up. And it was just like, okay, I could go home now. Like, I got my photo. And like Jimmy said, it's one of those images that's like, if you zoom in, it's not totally nailed on focus on that guy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're in the right place at the right time. That's all that really matters.
Well, I figured it was apropos to capture this last one with this picture right here. Every trip to the beach needs to be like this, in my view. So.
Yeah. Well, this is actually a good transition to talk about you. You and I had worked together doing photos for Vineyard 7 and 8 and Correlation, and it was your idea that you wanted to branch out a little bit with the Correlation photography and have it be in different settings and places. And so I used to basically just carry a couple of bottles in the car with me wherever I went. And one of the things that came up was, it's hard to keep up with that pace, especially if I'm doing other things for other clients. And then I remember saying to you at a certain point, you should just get a good camera. And like, if you're interested in it, just start learning, and then you'll be able to get great photos all the time. It's kind of that 80-20 rule. Like, there's some stuff that then you don't want it to become your life, but you put a little bit of effort into it. You get a couple of nice pieces of equipment and you can have great photos. And so it's been super fun to see you, because that's one of those things that I'll tell that to a lot of people, and some people get into it and some people get frustrated really quickly. And you really got into it. And it was fun seeing, getting the text from you and asking me about like lenses and settings and stuff. And then, a few weeks later, in a month or two, and it's like, okay, Wes, okay. I see where you're going. I see that you're doing this. So it's been super fun to see.
There's a fun little segue story here to close this picture out, though, that you were told before everyone joined, when it was just the four of us on. Tell us the story about how you had to use our wine as a barter.
Oh yeah, so this was during this period of time where we were taking a lot of photos together for Instagram and that kind of thing. And you said, okay, I'll give you bottles of wine. Just take them to restaurants, take a photo in restaurants, like take them in different settings, and we'll use those for Instagram. And so I was down in LA, and I had taken a few bottles down there, figuring, okay, I'll take some at restaurants and, by a pool, rosé by the pool, interesting things like that. And then I came one day, my trip was over. And so I leave my Airbnb and I hit Interstate 5 and I get a solid 280, 300 miles up the 5 and I run out of gas. And so I pull into a gas station and I reach for my wallet and my wallet's gone. I left my wallet in my Airbnb 300 miles away. And so I call, AAA, and they go, yeah, we can give you 1 gallon of gas, but we can't help you beyond that. That's not how our policy works. And then I'm doing all these mental gymnastics, like, okay, I have my phone. Can I do something with my phone? And then I talk to the people at gas station. They're like, nope. And so then I'm really thinking, like, what do I have? Like, what do I have on me like true MacGyver. What do I have that I can get out of this situation? Well, I got a couple bottles of nice cab. And so basically I was just like a peddler. I was those people that you see at gas stations on the 5. They're like, excuse me, sir. I was just going, hi, I'm Matt. I'm from Napa. I took this trip. I don't have my wallet. But, I got these really nice bottles of wine. Like, do you like wine? Because I have an empty gas tank. And if you fill up my gas tank, I got a couple bottles of cab. I got some rosé, for your girlfriend. You like rosé? And she's like, I love rosé, And so I was able to barter a couple bottles of wine to get back to LA and get my wallet and then do that drive again.
That's
It was
awesome.
it was a long day, but very thankful for correlation.
That's the ultimate correlation. Wine and gas.
Yeah.
Well, again, I mean, I don't want to spend as much time as these awesome guys and going through, but I thought, sort of a fun way to close out before we sign off for the day, have some fun and show what they have. Maybe I thank them and curse them all in the same light. This little hobby, just go get some equipment, Wes.
Yeah, it's not expensive. Yeah.
Oh, so wait, now I need
It's not a slippery slope at all.
Oh, no, wait, now I need this other lens. Oh, wait, this lens is going to work better for that.
Wes, I think you should start shooting film too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let me see. Where did my stuff go? Just a couple here. Uh-oh. There it is. So these are in no particular order, and I'll just go through them really quickly. Some of my stuff is wine. You'll get here in a second. You'll see probably a couple pictures of my kids jumping bikes. But, some black and white, some inspiration of landscape. This was just a close, using a macro lens of during a blending session, pouring some Chardonnay. This was a really cool picture that I got. This was outside, a reflection of the wine, the red wine, the cab from the glass onto this cool wooden table. I just thought it was a really cool picture using a macro lens. This was talk about storm. This was up in Tahoe. I just thought it was a really, really amazing sunset. Of course, if I'm not at the winery, I'm taking pictures of my kids jumping BMX bikes. Jimmy saw this firsthand yesterday as coming to get the bottle of wine as I was taking apart and putting back together my kids' bikes. Unfortunately, this is a picture taken of the fires, but what's interesting here is this is a long exposure shot taken in Yountville, and you sort of see the glow of the fire off on the eastern ridge above sort of Atlas Peak there. But you can't necessarily see it directly and maybe on the computer, but you get the stars that are popping out too, which was kind of neat. This is the famous Stagecoach up at Stagecoach Vineyard, where we get our Sauvignon Blanc from. Another bike picture. This is sunset in our Chardonnay up at Vineyard 7 and 8. This is my new purchase, an 85 millimeter prime lens. Again, curse you guys for the equipment needs, but as you can see, it takes pretty cool pictures.
That's a useful tool.
This one is inspired by Matt. Matt, when he first started taking pictures for Correlation, and it actually sort of helped spur the inspiration of the logo, and it was sort of going around. It's sort of the interplay of rings. So this is a vine tendril, super close-up macro photo. Another shot up at Stagecoach. And this was a shot that I got up in Tahoe. This is the Milky Way over Lake Tahoe. This is 7 images stacked on top of each other that I thought we had rented a house this summer, and I actually wasn't going to go out that night. I had tried a couple nights to get it, and I didn't get it. And I just sort of go out with my blind eye and I look in the sky, and I said to my wife, this is about 11:30 at night. I was like, I'll be back. And I just ran down to the beach and was able to catch this. So,
Sweet.
but it's pretty cool. I mean, but again, I mean, I think so much about this. I mean, obviously, wine is in itself, you know, an art form that is my life. But you know, the connection with these guys and with other amazing photographers. My sister actually, she studied at the Brooks Institute of Photography after post-grad of college. My father's been a collector of really incredible photographs. I think it took me the longest time to realize. One time I walked into his office and realized, I'm like, wait a minute, that's the tunnel view picture from Ansel Adams. So that's sitting in his office. Maybe one day we'll get that up here at the winery. But it just, so whether, and my mom is an artist in her own right. I mean, there's a handful of paintings that she's done up here. So, you know, I'd imagine that art, that left brain, and I am a left-handed, is in our blood. And you know, I think photography is what it's done to me, is it's almost slowed me down. I mean, life for all of us is so busy, it's so crazy. And that moment to be able to slow down behind the lens, and I sort of sound cliche on my correlation photo site. I say it's, you know, it's the correlations that I see when hiding behind my lens of the camera. But it's so true. And I think these guys would probably attest to it. It's that chance to sort of put yourself in that exact moment. You know, the past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist, you're in that now. And I think we all sometimes need that in life, especially these days. So Matt, Jeff, Jimmy, I really appreciate you guys joining today. So much. I hope you guys all enjoyed this. I hope the three of you guys enjoyed it. I hope everyone else enjoyed this correlation Zoom. I think Tony, thank you for helping brainstorm this awesome idea. Has everyone enjoyed the wines? You guys, you guys, Jimmy, this is the past sommelier. Enjoy the wine.
Loving it. It's great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear it. Well,
17 Cabernet.
yes.
You've really upped our Cabernet game here.
Maybe that's the touche. You've cost me on my camera equipment. I had to come back and up it with some wine there.
I was considering trying to sell the rest of this bottle for gas, but it's pretty good, so I think I'm just gonna drink it.
So you're staying home then? No, not going anywhere.
That was, without question, the best story.
What's that?
The gas story was the best story all day.
There's no question about that. I am honored. Actually, I have to cycle back on one question that was asked earlier. As I'm staring and I look at Matt, as I'm drawn to the depth of field on your Zoom screen. Our friends Dan and Shannon down in San Jose. So tell us, how did you create this most epic depth of field here, Matt?
Oh, this is the camera that I take photos with that is hooked up to my laptop and now my web camera. Right. I had to figure this out because I did a few Zoom cooking demos with Christopher Costow over at the restaurant in Meadowood. And so we had to figure out, you know, how can we elevate it a little bit? And so I had to go through the kind of hell of this program that is not meant for this, and figuring out what are all the things that we need to do this. You know, my favorite detail is, so we did two cameras, one on him speaking like this, and then one from above looking down at the food. And of course, you know, these aren't meant, this program isn't meant for that. And so there's a toggle switch, an easy toggle switch you can use. The problem is it considers your FaceTime camera a third camera. So it switches between the three. And so we don't need switching between two of Christopher cooking and then one of me, like, you know, at mission control. So you use your mouse. Well, there's a button at the bottom. You see that big button with the camera on it and the tiny little arrow in it?
Yeah.
So you could use that tiny little arrow to switch from camera 1 to camera 2. And that tiny little arrow is in that big button that says stop video. And so it's the most nerve-wracking thing to switch back and forth and not just stop everything. Like, you don't want just a black screen and it's over. And so each time it's like you're taking apart a bomb, like a ticking time bomb when you switch from camera A to camera B.
Not the red wire.
But yeah, basically, this is much easier just setting up one.
Well, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sticking around. Thank you guys for joining.
Thanks,
Everyone
guys.
be safe out there.
Cheers.
Everybody continue to enjoy some good wines at home. We'll continue to come up with some fun ideas and continue to share. There's Mom popping up mid-screen. Cheers, Mom. Oh, you're on mute. You're unmute. You always got to unmute Mom. You're still on mute, Mom. I tried to unmute you. There we go. Almost. Keep going. There
I
you go.
love your friends. Yay. No, they're awesome.
Yay.
Amazing.
I think so too.
And so can't wait to meet them in person.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
Good night,
cheers, guys.
gentlemen.
Good night. Be safe.